Let's review qualifying, okay? Let's take a couple minutes and really review the purpose of qualifying. Now, first of all, what is qualifying? What does that
I'm
mean?
asking questions and obtaining that person's information and their situation.
Okay.
Needs to know their situation.
Okay, so definitely the qualifying process for you is asking questions, okay, to determine what situation the customer has, and also to know how to help them, correct?
Exactly.
Okay, so and you're absolutely right. Okay, qualifying. When we talk about qualifying, the main purpose is to get to know the customer. Okay, and what I mean is their insurance history. Like, I want to know everything about the customer. Of course, everything that's relevant to insurance.
Exactly.
I don't care if they're hobbies. You know, that's not what we're talking about. You know, so we're gonna ask questions as far as, you know, do you have insurance? Okay, if you do, what company do you have? Okay, when is your monthly payment? Okay, how do you make your payments? Okay, do you make them through the phone, EFT, through the mail? Okay, do you make your payments a little bit ahead of time, or do you make them on the same day? So all of this information is very important, because as soon as I'm ready to give you an option, at least I know how you the process that you take when you're making your payments. Does that
Right.
make sense?
Yes.
If you don't have insurance, okay, when was the last time you had insurance? How much were you paying? What company did you have? Okay, why is that important?
Because you want to know what the customer, we can, one, save them money, two, what they're willing to pay, three, the history.
Okay, but because they don't have insurance.
Exactly.
So yes, of course. So what we're looking at is when was the last time they had insurance? Okay, what type of mentality do they have? So for example, there's a different scenario. Okay, there's a different scenario where let's say a customer was paying $30 a month, 30 monthly. Okay, 30 monthly. Okay, sorry, they were paying supposedly. Okay, supposedly they were paying $30 monthly. Okay, I think it was like 2 years ago. Now, the reason why it's important to ask and to know, because the lowest monthly payment that we had was within the 60s. Okay, so technically our job, okay, before we give them the option, is to eliminate the $30 that supposedly they were paying. Okay, because obviously their mentality is looking for $30 a month. So they're gonna be very vocal about it. They're gonna tell you, look, Ignacio, if you can't find $30 a month, don't waste my time. So how are you gonna approach the situation? Now, if you know ahead of time, you're not gonna give them 60 to 65, right?
Not before I give them the loss ratio.
Exactly. So there you go. So by qualifying the customer, by knowing exactly what type of situation they have, we're able to set up an introduction, a presentation that's going to make sense, that's going to convince them, and most importantly, that's going to eliminate their mentality. Okay? So once again, qualifying the customer is going to allow us to know what type of mentality do they have, what are they looking for, what do they need. Okay? And most importantly, how can we convince them? So as soon as we gather all the information that we need, okay, then our job is going to be to set up an introduction, obviously with some, let's say, justifying factors or some real life examples, okay, some knowledge, market knowledge, or just elaborating on service, okay, enough to convince the customer that the option that we have is the best option. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Now, I'll give you another example. Let's say, for instance, also qualifying. When you qualify a customer, it also helps us to set up an option that we could charge a lot more. Does that make sense? For example, we had a customer just a couple of days ago. Customer had, I believe it was Farmers, for example. Okay, Farmers. He was paying about I believe $1,050, and this is a real situation. Okay, so $1,050 every 6 months. Okay, it was full coverage for one vehicle, liability for the other. Okay, now we had Alliance, okay, offering about $670 every 6 months. So this is technically about $400 savings, right?
Correct.
So since we qualified the customer correctly, okay, we were able to set up an introduction where we did some calculations for him, and we told him, look, you're paying about $2,100. We could set you up the first year, which we were offering a $300 broker's fee. We could save you about, let's say, $300 the first year, and then the second year, if I'm not mistaken, it was about $1,600 hundred, so we were saving them over $700. So technically, what we did, we offered, knowing their situation, qualifying the customer, and knowing that they were paying $1,050 every 6 months, okay, with farmers, and we had alliance for $670 every 6 months. We were saving them about $400 roughly every 6 months. Okay, we were able to add a good broker's fee, okay, into the situation. We offered $1,800 the first year, so that's a $300 savings. And then we emphasized on the fact that the second year it was going to be about $700 savings, okay. So it was an easy, smooth sell. We were able to convince them. Customer went with option one. We got it was a good deal, okay. Now, let's just imagine for a second if we don't know how much they're paying. Okay, so let's say we don't know how much they're paying. Okay, what's gonna happen? We may not go as aggressive because we're not gonna be able to do the math and calculate how much money we're saving, right? Because we have no clue how much money they're paying.
Right.
So qualifying is very important because once again, you can tailor an option that's gonna be good enough for the customer to say yes. Does that make sense?
Yes.
He didn't argue at all. This is an easy, smooth sell. Okay, customer said yes, because we were able to save them so much money. So when you qualify the customer, it allows you to know how much money you can save them. And there's a rule that I have: the more money you save them, the more you could charge them. Why? Because you're saving them so much money. Does that make sense? So once again, qualifying, it's very essential. Okay, and it's all about thinking outside of the box. Okay, think outside of the box. Don't just go based on the obvious. Let's say, for example, if I'm qualifying you and I ask you, do you have insurance? And you're very negative and you don't want to provide information, okay? And you tell me, well, yes, I do, okay? How much are you paying? And your answer is, maybe you'll give me a negative response telling me, well, what does it matter? Okay, now, a pro agent is going to continue to ask, just rephrasing, thinking outside of the box, still focused on obtaining that information because we know that it's essential for us.
Right.
Does that make sense? I want to know how much you're paying. So I'll be aggressive in investigating and looking into the situation versus an inexperienced agent is just going to continue asking questions. He's going to give up. Why? Because you're being aggressive, because maybe you're intimidating me. Well, first of all, we need to be in control. And by asking questions, educating the customer, that's how we're going to keep some sort of control. Okay?
Okay.
So instead of me accepting your answer, I'll just rephrase the question and I'll tell you, look, the reason why I'm asking you is because I want to calculate and, demonstrate how much money we can save you. Matter of fact, 99% of our customers are saving roughly about $500 to $700 every single year, which is, more than any other agency out there. So it's not an obligation, but at least I want to know if I'm actually helping you, if I'm actually saving you money, or maybe you have the best deal. I want to make sure that I can compare whatever you're paying and obviously compare it with the options that I have, okay? And if the customer says, no, I'm not interested, then you continue, the qualifying process, give them some time, distract them, and then come back and ask them again. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because customer may forget. There's a good chance that by you giving him more information or taking him off of the subject, he's gonna forget that he doesn't want to disclose anything. You ask him again and he tells you. So qualifying it's all about gathering all the information that we need. And then I have another rule, okay? If the response is vague or if it doesn't make sense, then you continue investigating until you get the response that we need. Does it make sense?
Yes.
So let's say, for example, if I'm asking you, by when would you be interested in making a decision? And you tell me, I don't know, as soon as possible. That's not good enough for me. What is as soon as possible? I need a date. It's either going to be today or tomorrow. Okay. So, like that, we could continue elaborating on why it should be today instead of tomorrow. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So let's say, for example, if you give me the impression that you're not ready today, then I'll give you all that urgency so you can know, so you can have the information to determine that making a decision today is going to be the best option. Okay, instead of waiting. Okay, what's the whole point of waiting? Okay, but but once again, we need to be specific. Okay, we need to get specific information. Okay, so once again, qualifying, you need to gather all the information that you can possibly gather from the customer. Everything is essential because Just the smallest detail could be the biggest factor. Okay, and next thing you know, you close the customer and they're so smooth. Why? Because you knew exactly what to offer them. I have an example. Let's say, for example, you work at a shoe store. Okay, let's say 9 West, for example. Okay, and you have a customer. Okay, you have a lady that walks in and you already know her. Okay, you know her shoe size. You know her style. You know what she's always looking for. Okay, so as soon as she walks in, because you already know her, because you already qualified her at one point. As soon as she walks in, you could literally walk out with 3 pairs of shoes and put them on display for her, okay? And you know that most likely she'll choose one of the 3.
Right.
Why? Because it's the style that she likes, and it's her shoe size. Does that make sense?
Right.
So, because you qualified her, because you know what she wants, you know what she likes, you know what she wears, you know her shoe size, you're able to present something that's going to be suitable for her.
Right.
You're tailoring options that are going to be good enough for her to make a decision. Does that make sense?
Yes.
What if another customer comes in, first time, okay, and you see her walk into your aisle, you could say, and then you have 3 pairs of shoes with you, and then you just walk up to her and tell her, look, these are some very nice shoes, but you have no clue what type of shoe size, you don't know what type of style. Do you think you're gonna have some success in selling her one of those shoes?
Very little.
Probably not, right? Because most likely you don't know what type of style, you don't know anything about the customer.
Exactly.
So qualifying gives you an opportunity of knowing everything about the customer. So by the time you're ready to introduce options, okay, or information, you know that information is going to be enough to convince the customer. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Any questions as far as that?
No.
Okay.